GG. What's up, Silence? How's it going? Alright, we need to do 2 more. We can finally get through diamond if we win 2 more. I think so. Maximum, he can't heal here. Yeah. I just want to prioritize damage. I don't want to do anything risky. Alright, boys. ADLP. You would have played Ezreal first there if he had it. You would have played Ezreal there first if he had it. Oh my god, my heart was sank. I thought that was Ezreal, and I was like, why did he play it? Alright, he has to draw Ezreal literally, like, now. Please just concede. Please just concede. Please just concede. He didn't concede! He didn't concede. Nice! Let's fucking go, dude! Nice! What a good climb. Let's go, Masters, baby! Let's go! Oh my god, yes. Let's fucking go, dude. Hell yeah. Wow, this deck performed a lot better than I thought it would. Get a nice 85 LP start. Hell yeah, let's go. Finally. Let's go, rank 1, baby. Rank 1, baby. Hey everyone, NoMakes Plays here. Today I'm going to go over my Darius Draven Aggro Harrowing deck that I got Master Rank with this season. We went 17-3 with it. We had 8-0 win streak on point, 14-1 on point. Pretty good deck. It's very straightforward. So I'm going to go over the deck real fast, the card choices I chose to put into it, and then we'll play some games in the new Master Ladder. So first thing I want to say is this was a final inclusion of the deck. The deck was around 38, 39 cards, and then this added in last, so I'm actually going to go over this last. So Legion Avatar and Precious Pet, pretty straightforward. These are 1-drops of the deck. Which one you want to play on turn just depends on the opponent's 1-drops like Omen Hawk or Hapless. Like, these is obviously better against those, but if they have fun with anything, let's say you're playing against PNZ, even though they can Thermo Beam you, but they usually don't play creatures on 1, so if they don't have the Thermo Beam, this would have 3 damage at the beginning instead of just 2 damage. And there are other 1-drops to be considered, but the reason why this one is the last inclusion is that right now these are the best ones because this is the guaranteed damage even if it doesn't get the direct damage, and this one has Fearsome. But yeah, again, we'll go into this why I this last. But there are more 1-drops. Alright, Crimson Disciple. Pretty straightforward card. When you start damage, deal 2 enemy nexus. You can combo it with Pure Demolitionist, deal 1 to an ally, deal 2, so you do 4 together. I think most people know this combo are pretty familiar with it, but the main 2-drops of the deck are Crimson Disciple and actually Legion Grenadier, 3-1, deal 2 to enemy nexus. So you don't really play this on 2. Like, if you have a 1-drop, you don't play the Demolitionist on 2 to like kill this or kill this, because then you just lose your creature. This is more, all intents and purposes, like a 3+ drop. You really don't play it on 2. So the only 2 drops you really have in this deck are Crimson Disciple and the only 2 drops you have in the deck are Crimson Disciple and Legion Grenadier. You can try Elise also, but I have tried versions with it out, and I'll explain at the end of the deck profile real quick of cards I did include. But then Transfusion. So I originally had 3 Transfusion. When I did hit Master, I actually ran 3 Transfusion and 1 Legion Regard. Again, I'll get to that later. But I ended up running 2 because of the consistency of having handed too many spells. And you don't necessarily see this card in multiples, you just want to see 1. It's really good, of course, because it triggers the Disciple, but a lot of times you will lose games if you have too many spells. This mainly being 1 because it isn't a spell like Decimate where like you can just burn damage them directly. This one requires you to be attacking to do the damage. You can use defending link, but this is an defensive. This is an aggro deck, so you want to do it offensively. So this one is a bit more situational, but it's obviously very good. But we'll move on and explain things a bit quicker in detail later. But again, I will make the deck profile brief. So let's go 3-drops. Draven and Iron Ballista. First, I'll talk about Draven. So Draven is so good in this deck. Oh my gosh. The reason why is because, especially against aggro mirrors and mid-range decks, you play Draven on 3. Let's say you're attacking out on 3. You play him on 3, and then you go to attack. Then you're playing an aggro deck, so every damage you do makes a big difference. Getting the range of the Fervors, the Decimates, the Demolitionist combos, like every damage can make the difference of winning. So they want to take as little damage as possible. So if you attack with Draven, they're a conundrum where they either have to choose between losing their creature because they block and has quick attack, and they usually will always on 3 be able to kill any creature if they block it. And then, of course, the axe as well. So yeah. So basically, they have a conundrum where they choose either take 3 damage directly, or lose a creature and take no damage. But it's a win-win because obviously there's about 2 outcomes. But I'd like to explain a little bit more. Is that 3 damage? Obviously, aggro deck. It's amazing. A lot of cards don't guarantee 3 damage like that. And then if they lose a creature, they're losing future blockers. Like if they block Draven. They're like, okay, but I don't take 3 damage. He's playing an aggro deck, obviously. Let's block Draven. So they block Draven. Then next time you attack on 5, they have 1 less blocker for your huge wide boards. So it's because you're gonna be playing more creatures. So a lot of times in aggro mirrors, if you play Draven on 3 and you're attacking on 3, they have to take the damage, because if they don't take the damage, then they lose their field control, and they can't try and aggro you because you're getting rid of their creatures that would be attacking. You get the field control and you do like huge damage next time, and you summon like Basilisk Riders, and then your next attack does so much more damage. So it's really like they either take 3, which puts you in a great spot, or they lose their block with their creature, which honestly most times is even better. A lot of times if they block with the creature, it's just a win from there in aggro mirrors, because they're just so far behind at that point. Like they can't regain field control. You're ahead. You're just ahead, and able to make these huge push this next attack, and then there's usually no way they can really try and match your damage output. So usually it's a guaranteed 3 damage in these matchups. It is not as strong in certain matchups because I don't typically play Elise, and at least a really 2-drop deck, so it brings a lot to the table. But this card isn't as good against like the chump blocky decks. Like I said, I was talking about Pet and Savitar, like the ones that run like the Hapless, Aristocrat, Omen Hawk. Like they can block in like Sentry. Like they can block. Well, Sentry is still a 2-drop, but you know what I'm saying. Like they can block. These chump blocky decks don't really matter as much. But Draven overall in this meta is insanely good. Even if they do block him with the chump blockers, it's really not a big a deal. The only thing is that it saves them some time, and they're not really put as any pressure. But let's move on. Iron Ballista, 4/3 to Overwhelm. Just kind of goes around the whole. There's a lot of cards in the deck with Overwhelm. We haven't really got to them yet, but along the lines of Iron Ballista, Basilisk Rider, and Darius. A lot of times when you attack, you get guaranteed chip champion. That's all you need, and that'll make your Harrowing better. These Overwhelms can't be blocked, and you get huge Harrowing swings. But another reason I like these two together is that it makes it pretty consistent to have the multiple 3-drops. You have 6 3-drops, 6 2-drops, because I only count Grandier Disciple because you don't want to play this one too. And then you have the 1-drops. But I'll get into this later again. 3 Fervor, pretty straightforward. Deal 3 to an ally, deal 3 to anything. Usually uses a burn spell with their Nexus. You can use it to dodge drain and lifesteal effects. Like if they have a lifesteal unit like Radiant Guardian, you can block with your creature Fervor on their Nexus and then attack. They won't. Lifesteal unit won't strike anything because you got rid of your unit after you block, so they won't heal. Dodges heals. It dodges Grasp, but they do Grasp or like Vile Feast and stuff like that. But good example, best example is probably Grasp. Like they Grasp with the Undying to drain 3, but if you get rid of your unit, they don't drain anything, so they don't heal. So dodges heals, those 3 damage. You can also just use it. A lot of times, like you will end up using it in combat trades to try and get rid of threats, especially in like aggro mirrors, because in aggro mirrors, to respect that like they can also kill you as fast as you can kill them. So you'll have to use it in trading wise, but it's just very versatile. It's a versatile card. It's very good. All right, let's move on to like the new Pride and Joy. This deck, it's gonna be the Basilisk Rider. All right. This card is insane. I actually think this card is so good. So it previously was a 5/2, I believe, and they buffed it to a 5/3. That made a huge difference. A card went from pretty much never being played when it was a 5/2 to being insane on 4. I think the health was very good and fixed the card a lot. I do actually think the attack should go down though to a 4/3. I'm telling you that like I play this card so much, or a good amount this format. This card is absurd. Like let's look at it a little bit. It's only 4-drop. You always want to have it on 4. Your allegiance chance is really high. It's very important in this deck, actually, at the allegiance. Your allegiance is important in every deck, but it's very crucial on the tempo of this deck. But so it becomes grant me +1/+1 Overwhelm when you hit the allegiance. It becomes a 6/4 with Overwhelm on 4. Decks just like can't deal with that. Like most decks just cannot deal with that. It's way too much. I've had times where I play this on 4 and people just concede instantly. They just concede right away. Not all the time, but it does happen actually. Because if you play 6/4 on 4, like not really anything can test that. Most things can't block that, and if they can trade with it, a lot of times they take like 3 damage in the process, 3-4 damage in the process, and they can't chump block it because they try to block like a 1/1 Spider or Hapless or whatever. But that's the 1 defense or one of their weakened units that they already got a good trade out of or something. If that's what was happening, then they take like 5+ damage, and then it's still there. So This card's absurdly good. It's really cool in this deck because you have good pressure going first and second, because going first you get the 1-drop and then you get these on 3, but going 2's not as strong. If you have Basket Rider, it's pretty insane. So this card's amazing. All these overwhelm moves are really good with the Harrowing. But yeah, Decimate, Fortner's Nexus. We're playing an aggro. Like it's not like a burn deck. It's more creature oriented, but the goal is to get Nexus to 0 as fast as possible. 3 Darius. So this card got a buff. I don't really think the buff made too much difference, but we do take those. I do like having the extra health here. He's one of my favorite champions. He's a pretty awesome card, but when that Nexus has 10 or less health, comes to 10-6 with Overwhelm. Pretty straightforward. Chancellor's Decimate, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, you play on the 6 as a bomb. A lot of times, like if they're already behind trying to not die, and you just play a huge bomb like this, you just win. A lot of people think this card is kind of overrated because Will of Ionia beats it a lot, and that is true. But it still makes them, if you have field control, like say you play Basilisk Rider, and they had to trade unfavorably with the Basilisk Rider, and you play this on 6, if they use their Will on this card, yeah, it's obviously not good for you, but like that's 4 mana they had to waste that turn when they're already like 10 health or below, and you have field control, so you're just gonna get a lot of chip damage. But yeah, so basically, you just play these things, and then it's a burn deck. But the issue, a lot of aggro burn decks, I think, can run out of steam, especially in this meta right now, because like Brahmanivia is very popular, and like all these healing, and these like there's just many ways that most of us have played many aggro decks in this game, and if you haven't, then you'll learn quickly that you can easily run out of steam. Like kind of the goal of the opponent is to make you as limited as possible, because you're not really gaining much card advantage out of these cards. Like you will a bit more in these aggro variants with Basilisk Rider, because you'll win trades and they have to block, like lose a card to block them. But usually their deck will be generating some sort of advantage as a strategy or something along those lines, and you're really just kind of like using your cards to do damage to Nexus. Like Decimate is a -1, you use it and you lose it. Just do damage to Nexus without like trading cards. But then, since the Harrowing got buffed, it was 10 previously, now it's 9. This means you can use this card on turn 6. So you really pretty much always use this card offensively. But yeah, when you run out of steam, you just play the Harrowing and you get everything back. But the craziest part is that there's many cards that when you get them off the Harrowing, it's not just like a normal, oh, I can block this or I can deal with this. It's like, first go to the Overwhelm units. If they block the Overwhelm units, the 4-3, the 6-4, for all intents and purposes, it's usually 6-4. This is a 10-6, like they can't just block them, they lose. Even if I've had times where I've had Harrowings that weren't that strong, but like you just get 6 units and they can't deal with all of them. And if you play this and they're at, let's say they're at like 8 or something, even if your units aren't insanely good, you're going to be getting you can get the 1 damage off this. Then this is insanely good with the Harrowing. I particularly want to mention this for sure. Last Breath deals 2 to Nexus. So this card, when you get off the Harrowing, let's say you played multiples, then it's guaranteed 2 damage each time. You play 2, it's guaranteed 4 damage. It's very good. So yeah, pretty straightforward deck. That's pretty much about it for the deck profile. It's very straightforward again, so I think it'd be better showing you guys in action, but I'll just briefly go over the cards I don't play and why. Oh, I gotta go over the rear guard. Okay, my bad, I said just later. Okay, so this deck originally, this is how it looked. It had 3 transfusion and it was 39 cards, right? So I'll actually just change it. So the original version looked like just like this. Looked just like this. So I had 39 cards here. I wanted that to be consistent. When I first built, I had 3 transfusion because I just thought I didn't initially actually realize that I would only want 2 because of the bricky hands, or that it can clog sometimes with the spells, particularly being this card, considering this card is a bit more situational. It's not like Decimate or Fervor, you just burn. You have to be attacking, and it's better Crimson, so it kind of relies on other cards sometimes. But point is, consistency, 39 cards. So I thought, okay, well, what should the 40th card be? So a lot of people were running Atrocity, and I was at first thinking, well, this card's kind of inconsistent. It kind of adds to the problems Transfusion had. At the time, I didn't really know, but the same theory applied when I was thinking about it initially, where I was just like, well, a lot of times I feel like it's not a card in your main strategy to win. It's only good really late game. It's kind of a way at 4th Harrowing. Like, I know it's not, but it's supposed to just close out the game with this high cost spell. I mean, some of Decimate too, but yeah, it's another one of those cards. But I didn't really think that's one of the issues of the deck, and it could add to more of the issues of the deck that it already had, is its inconsistencies and breaking and stuff, which is deck can do if you have too many spells. So I was thinking, well, what is slaying this deck? So this really glared to me, was that 3 Saboteur, 3 Pet was the only 1-drops, because traditionally in the burn and aggro decks, you usually want 9 1-drops. Like if you look at P and Z burn, they run 9 1-drops. If you look, this is basically like the same goal, to get that next to 0 as fast as possible. So aggro. There is a Freylord version of this deck with 3 Omen Hawk, 3 Saboteur, 3 Pet. So then that aggro deck had 9 1-drops. Basically, aggro decks mostly want 9 1-drops. So this one I had 6. So I thought that was a flaw of the deck, is that for an aggro strategy, the deck would be a lot stronger if it had more 1-drops. And then a reason to play a different version of that could be because this deck might not open the pressure from turn 1, which will allow the opponent to stabilize more. So I just thought, okay, well, I'll add Rearguard then, because it's 3. I mean, it's these ones are better. It's basically a fourth pressure pet, or a 4th Saboteur. It's just an extra 1-drop to add consistency to the early game, try to fix one of the problems of the deck, start off that strong aggro strategy. It still does do 3 damage you attack with on a 1. It's so that's why I added this card. It was just an extra 1-drop to add the consistency to the aggro strategy from the beginning, and it fixes one of the weaknesses of not being 1-drop compared to other aggro decks. Then later I realized this was a card that again was relied on other things and can break the spell, so I added a second Rearguard, and that's how this deck ended up being like this. I just want to explain the Rearguard, particularly as this was the 39th and 30th, 40th card. It wasn't like this was like okay, I'm with this deck, Rearguard, Saboteur, Pressure Pit. It was like this. I had extra slots, and then this was the last like puzzle piece put in to fix like for these reasons. But yeah, okay, real quick again. I'm saying real quick, but maybe brief. Elise, very good card in this deck. Amazing. When my first iteration deck played Elise, it helps because I actually like in aggro decks to have a more low cost to make sure I don't break or anything. So Elise is very good. It's one of the best 3-ups in the whole game, but it's at the cost of cutting Draven, which I think is more important because the reasons I said above, the aggro matchup. Elise is very good, don't get me wrong. It also does affect the allegiance. It does make you have 6, but Basilisk is very key to hit the allegiance, but the thing is, 6 is still fine. Like having 6 of a card that goes against your allegiance is fine. It's honestly the standard. I think a lot of decks that have the allegiance usually run around 3 to 6, so it's fine to have that, but it's at the expense of Draven, which I think is pretty crucial in this deck. And then Atrocity I explained earlier. People ask me about Decisive Maneuver sometimes. I don't think this card's very good in these kind of decks. It's kind of like Transfusion, where it relies on certain things. You have to be attacking. It's bricky. You don't have too many spells in the deck. It's the same thing as bricky, because your hands are solely spells and don't do anything. It relies on other things, and it also costs a lot more. In Transfusion, I'm not directly comparing them, obviously, because you would play this and this, but when you add a card to deck, I think some people, when they ask me about decks, this is a big thing. It sounds very obvious, but like people don't really consider it too much before they think about adding a card. Whenever you add a card, you have to cut a card. It's very standard, I know. But like, I wouldn't want to cut anything in this deck for this card. It would have to be, this is the only flex spot, and this actually contributes to the consistency of the deck and fixes the problem of the deck, where this card, the deck's not like lacking in ways to kill people, and it does exactly what it's supposed to do, and the Harrowing is a good closer. But this would just kind of add to the problems of the deck, I feel like. In general, it's situational. There are variants of crowd favorite and Elise and stuff. And like, Might, I feel like is kind of cheesy and like redundant. Like, this deck's very straightforward. I like consistency in decks. That's why I love mostly run 3-Os. I feel like if you have Sound Theory, you want to have the best possible strategy and implore as often as possible without the highest win rate. Of course, by also playing really well. But anyways, enough of the deck profile. Play a few games. These games are probably going to be tough. Considering that we are in Masters new season, not too many Masters new season, but usually we'll always queue you against someone who's higher rank. So, like a Master as well. So we're up against a Master. We're against Heimer Vi. Alright, so I think so one perk of this deck, and its positioning in the meta, is that Heimer Vi, I think, has a winning match against every deck in the game except aggro. So this makes the deck very prominent. Likewise, it loses very hard to Brahma Nivea, so it kind of is polarizing matchup spreads, but let's focus on the game at hand. So I usually like to, in these aggro decks, in these burn decks, this is, aggro more so, I like to always start with creatures. So we have our 1-drop here, 2-drop here. some people might think like, oh, doing why do you keep decimate? It's a spell that does 4 damage directly. That's what you're trying to do, right? It's like you want to draw on these spells later. You don't have a hand, like you're not gonna activate this for a while. You want to open the 1-drop, the 2-drop, the iron, like the 3-drop Iron List for Draven, the 4-drop Basilisk Rider. So if you keep these spells, you're really hurting your early game. And this is what the pressure this deck gives off from the early game is what gets it the tempo it needs. And then Transfusion is it's the same concept. Like Transfusion is obviously good if you have the Disciple, but keeping those spells in your hand can really hold you back from your early game pressure, and then it kind of just defeats the whole purpose of that Thermal Beam. Kind of defeats the whole purpose of the whole aggro pressure. Like your opponent has to lose advantage by using cards in unfavorable ways because they have to stop you from, doing this insane damage. So Thermal Beam is really good against us on 1. That's the only card they could have to stop our attack, so it's fine. We take this. We don't want to trade these because of this. So it's kind of awkward so far, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so we're drawing more spells. So example here, if we kept those spells and then we drew these spells, maybe we wouldn't draw this back in our deck, but we drew these spells, we would just lost straight up because we would have just had to break hand of spells. That's exactly what I'm trying to get across when I say how to mulligan this deck is like that. We're gonna keep this back because of this. But yeah, this is why you want to mulligan for creatures in this deck. A lot of people ask me like about how to mulligan this deck, and this is how you should do it. You should mulligan for a 2-drop and 1-drop. Like I don't even count this 2-drop, so if you have this opening hand, I would mull it away for sure. So we'll get our spell mana here and play this while he's tapped out, so we can't chain a spell. Because if I do this here, and he had mana for Mystic Shot, he could chain Mystic Shot, kill this, and then we wouldn't get either of these effects, and we lose so much damage. Obviously, we let this go. We're pretty much now going to start attacking a bit more, not recklessly, but aggressively, because we have the Harrowing. So we kind of want to get our guys in the graveyard, or destroy. There's no graveyard in this game, so that way we can revive them and have a huge swing. Denied beats us pretty bad, but it doesn't mean you just don't do it. It's still the right thing to do. And we have mana for Decimate this turn, so we're probably just going to attack with everything and then play Decimate. Seems to be the plan here. Okay. He doesn't have Heim. He might actually be trying to race us some damage, which is kind of scary. But that means he maybe let these go, so he blocks some of them. We'll see what he does to kind of gauge where he's going for here. Blocking everything, okay, he's definitely not trying to race us some damage. So here we have option Transfusion or Decimate. I think that we should just Decimate. Because I'm pretty sure we can do Harrowing and Transfusion on our next attack. So we're going to have at turn 7, our next attack, right? 6 and then 7. And then we have 3 spell mana, so we'll have 10 mana total. So we can't Decimate him, stupid. Sorry. But either way, we still Decimate in there. It fixes our mana better. This is kind of like a cheesy option. The perk of it was that there was a perk to it is that we could always Decimate later, where this is it needs to be in combat. So like there was justification to do the Transfusion there instead. So that way, even if we don't Decimate right away, we'll just do our game plan and have Decimate at the end. But here, Basilisk Rider, we don't mind if he buffs it and then trades here because we're just gonna Harrowing next turn. If all he can do is trade this turn and then we play Harrowing denies it, we still get the damage in here unless he has Deny and then like Static Shock, which again is plausible. He's probably just gonna trade here. We can't Transfusion here because we want to go for the Harrowing. So this is playing really hard into Deny. But this deck is fairly linear, and I don't think we're just not going to play this right now. Resolves, we win 100%. Yeah, it's Deny. Oh, okay, he's fishing for Deny with Deep Meditation. And even if he does Deny, we still have a good chance to win. We can draw more Harrowings later. But there's not really much reason not to do this here. Playing around Deny is extremely extra. Like, if you don't Harrowing now, they just Deny it later. Like, there's no reason not to play on a curve right now. If it's Deny, he's not. That's not Deny. Okay. Oh, okay, he just gives up. Yeah, okay. I was like, that's not Deny. Like, there's because he's using 2 spells. Like, he loses. Like, yeah. So we win here. Yeah, the only thing to consider here that I would have differently is maybe transfusion the third turn. So again, because you can transfusion right there in the moment to buff the Crimson Disciples to do 2 more damage to his Nexus right away if it lives, if you didn't like have a spell to kill it again. And then even though we won't be decimating for a while because of the mana, it will always be live even on his turn compared to transfusions only on our turn attacking. So maybe transfusion there, I'm not sure. But that's game 1. So this deck is a really good matchup against Heimbai. It's one of the reasons it's even playable. Like I think Heimbai beats pretty much everything in the meta except for aggro. That's one of its good matchups. It's cool that it has a role like that. Otherwise, I don't know how prominent it would be. Basketball 4 is pretty crazy, so it'd probably still get anyway, along with the Harrowing. It loses really hard to Braum and Nivea, but something that's one of its worst matchups, if not its worst. But something cool is that the Harrowing lets you be able to win that matchup. I genuinely believe that other aggro's can't beat Braum and Nivea. Like PNZ, Burn, I don't think so. Elusive Burn, maybe, because Elusives can get around some stuff with the pressure they have with like defending with Braum. But the Freylord, Darius variant, which was Omen Hawk and like Fury instead of like the Harrowing and stuff, they'll just get Braum and Nivea will keep healing, keep destroying their cards, and then they'll run out of steam. But Harrowing is an interesting add to this deck where it just keeps it to where you can just beat the deck anyway. Even if you run out of stuff, you can have a turn where you play Harrowing, and in one turn if they don't have like the Runation or like a Harsh or something, you can still win. So it's pretty cool how like Harrowing makes up for all the lost advantage you have by just when things, you can be aggressive and then you lose everything, you just get it back. But here, let's focus on the mulligan. Card's too high cost for now, so let's get rid of this, draw it later. So here, you maybe, like, sometimes during the matchup, you maybe would keep Draven, but let's say this is average most of the time. It's a mid-range deck. I wouldn't keep Draven here because you want to get a 1-drop. This is the reason I added the rearguards also, is that you want to open the 1-drop. Now, the 1-drop's a big difference in tempo, so we have time to draw this 3-drop. So we're going to mulligan for the 1-drop. We got it. A lot of the variants, like the ones without, the ones that are my variant that runs the rearguard, if you're running the standard variant that maybe runs like Atrocity instead or whatever, you can't really justify doing stuff like that a lot of the time because you only have 6 1-drops. So the odds are a lot lower to mulligan and get the 1-drop you want to start off the good pressure, which weakens your deck overall because you're not starting with the strong pressure, which means they have more more time, and they're making more leniency, or I guess that's a word, to do what they're trying to do while playing around. Like, they're not pressured as much. They don't feel like they're forced to block you. They're like, oh, instead of having 17 health and just constantly being attacked, they have 20. Like, oh, well, maybe I can take this attack, do this turn to do my setup or whatever, and then you just run it. Like, they just stop you. So having the extra 1-drop really helps the mulligans. It helps the consistency of the deck, considering you're starting off with the strategy from the get-go. This card's insanely good versus us. I would like to play this. I really would. He would attack if we do so, and then we could take that, or we could play this, but then he could block this. But at the same time, that means he's not blocking these. I'm gonna do this and then bank the spell mana. We're not gonna be able to use it next turns. We're playing Basket Rider for sure, but we need to over time accumulate the 2 mana. Okay, this is really good. Okay. Missing this here is really big. Like it's mostly the overwhelm. Like obviously the stats are, I mean, it's all pretty insane, but okay. This is pretty bad because we attack with just this, you can block like this. Attack with all of these, you can block like this, and then here, and then here. Attack with just this, he blocks with the Omen Hawk. Our best bet's probably just going to be to pass. There was some merit to attacking with only this, so he blocks like this because they're going to trade anyway, but it's not really true. Because this lets them attack directly, and I don't really want to block certain ways, so I guess we just pass here. We do want to set up the Harrowing for next turn, though, so it kind of makes things awkward. Okay, it kind of makes things awkward because we want our creatures to die at the same time, but he also might pass. So what do we think about this? We can't attack with everything. Maybe we would set the Harrowing at a different turn later, but I would like to do it on 6. Let's see what he does. That's pretty good. So here we can either play this or this and this turn. We can only spend 3 mana this turn to do the Harrowing on 6 because we need to bank 3 because 6 plus the 3 bank mana is 9 for Harrowing. So we can only spend 3 mana. So we keep the 3 spell bank mana for Harrowing next turn. So 2 different options here. I don't really think that this is going to go down. I'd rather play Ballista, and even if he attacks, I'll just block this with it. We're gonna abort it anyway. Okay, it's gonna end. We're probably gonna have to set up a good open attack here. So we should just play this now and print abandon ship on the Harrowing because we're not playing it. Our field's too full. It doesn't really get the value we're looking for. He can play Sejuani's turn, so he probably should just attack with everything, and then try and live. Try and live next turn without dying. Like even if he attacks directly next turn and we lose everything, we still won't die, and then we just play Harrowing and win. So I think we attack with everything here. The order doesn't matter too much, but I get in the habit of attacking lowest to highest a lot of the time because it helps you with lethal, where they're forced to block your weaker cards so they don't die, but then you still have your stronger cards to finish, especially with Overwhelm. You don't want them to have cards that can block the way they want to with Overwhelm. Petra's Pet is kind of similar. You don't have to be able to block cards they want with Fearsome. But right here doesn't matter that much, so let's just go lowest to highest for simplicity. So Transfusion's going to be very good here. We're going to take a lot of damage on his turn from the trades he's winning. So this one actually wasn't as bad as it looked. So we can go like this. This gets 2 damage, and then we get that trade. And then we can also do this into this. And then that makes it live and also trying to do more damage. I'm sure he has a spell to stop us, or some kind of battle trick, freeze, all kinds of things, but it doesn't really matter too much because we have the Harrowing. This is why I think this deck is so good. Like, imagine a normal deck, aggro deck, trying to do this. A normal aggro deck, say the Freylord Darius version, pretty much does the same thing they're doing right now, like almost exactly, but they don't have the Harrowing in the deck. So it's like, they're running out of steam so easily. They basically almost already lost by like, whatever turn we're on, 6? Yeah, they basically already lost by 6. Like, yeah, they could have like Fear the North, but like that would only get them so far. Then you Fear North something, maybe you want to trade here, who knows? Like, let's say you Fury and kill the Trapper, right? Or something. They just play Sejuani and kill your card, and then you lose. It's super easy to stop them. I don't even know if I want to play this. I don't think I do. Because like we want our whole field to be reborn for Harrowing. Interesting. So here we're gonna Harrowing, so we might as well aggressively block. This is an interesting add to this deck. I'm not really sure what's up with it, but let's try and take as little damage as possible, considering we can't get any good trades here. Something cool with the Harrowing is if you play the Harrowing, you can look at the eye, see everything you get, but you kind of want to know we have it. So let's just look at our right here on the left to see what our Harrowing's gonna get. We got Precious Pet, Disciple, Rearguard, Basilisk Rider, Iron Ballista. I'm not sure which ones are multiples. I think was it only 5? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. Yeah, so we're gonna get all 6. So let's just pass. The cool thing about the Harrowing discount, I mean, probably like harsh ones or like Reckoning or something, so we might be screwed. But it's like you get extra mana. So on top of this so we can see we get the Oracle Eye. Okay, so we get the 6. But on top of this, we also get 2 mana to play like this or this to like do more damage or block whatever. He easily could just Reckoning here, but it actually wouldn't kill Basilisk Rider, which is cool. And it would kill his whole field, so it's not even really the greatest card. Okay, so maybe he's gonna try and play Yeti, and then like somehow hope we do something and then Reckoning, but we're not. We're just gonna attack right here, so we get a chance to do that. I'm gonna give him the extra action. Let's go lowest to highest again. So here's at 10. He has to block 1, 2. He's at 9. He's moving 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. He has to block these before he gets here. See, since he's gonna die, so it makes him. And then if he doesn't block these, he's dead either way. So going lowest to highest makes it harder to him to take the least amount of damage. Okay. So what is this exactly going on? Puts him at that. So he loses his whole. He loses 3 cards, and then takes 5 damage. That's extremely good. The Harrowing here, like look how low he is on resources. Like a second ago, it seemed like he had so much more than us. We had like what, like 2 or 3 cards, and he had like a hand of like 4 or 4 plus or whatever it was. He was definitely up in cards by a good margin. And then now that we played this Harrowing, he's forced to trade. So the option to win after on a Steam and like Harrowing does like this, it's just other versions of aggro don't have that ability. They just don't. So it's pretty amazing what Harrowing brings, especially being we're low on cards, we can still win. Even if they trade with it, they lose steam. Like, what if we draw another Harrowing? Like, that one Harrowing already made him lose half his cards. We draw another one. It's gonna be game. Okay. So, as long as we don't die here, we're good. We easily can die here with this card's effects. It's pretty scary, but we do have the Fervor. So let's just keep putting out blockers. So this card, so it freezes when it attacks and things that enemies with 0 attack can't block. So this will be frozen. This will be frozen. This would be game, exact game normally, but we have Fervor because we're really good. Normally I put him on the one with the highest defense, so it's harder for his spells to kill them, but in this matchup it shouldn't matter. This should be game. He can't Culling Strike or anything because he needs one more mana. This is probably just game right here. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool. Nice. So yeah, again, we went 17-3 with it. We had an 8-0 streak. We were 14-1 with it. After that, so I think we won 8 in a row, then lost and won 6 in a row, and then ended 17-3. Got into Master. Overall, really good deck. The hardest matchups will be Braum and Nivea, but the Harrowing will help you out. I don't keep it in the mulligan. I think it's too high cost. Again, you want to start with the really good early pressure, but as the game goes on, you want to draw into the Harrowing. Braum decks are good to kind of stop this deck up. But yeah, that'll be the video, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to follow me on Twitch and ask me. Make sure to subscribe to YouTube or anything like that. I'll be making daily videos. Excited to see what happens next, but pretty straightforward video. I hope this helped you guys out. If you have any questions, definitely can also type in the comment below. But thank you guys so much, and hope you enjoyed the video. See ya.